Hello, guys. Welcome to another episode of the African Experience podcast. This is episode number 5, and we'd like to apologize for episode number 4 and 5 because of the time we took to upload. Most of our listeners, or some of our listeners, have been asking why is it that we've taken so much time and haven't uploaded. There are lots of reasons. They're due to some technicalities we had to take care of. And which has been resolved now, and hopefully from now we will upload as regular as we had promised. And once again, we'd like to apologize to our listeners. This episode today is in the memory of our late former President J.J. Rawlings, Jerry John Rawlings. We think he's a personality, or he's a character in the Ghanaian history that has had huge impacts, that has contributed to the progress economically, politically, and otherwise progress of the country and to some extent the continent. We'd like this to be the first, or rather, this is going to be the first of a series that is going to be on this podcast. We're going to be talking about the legacy of previous African presidents. We'll try to take them one by one, episode by episode, and talk in depth on what kind of legacy they'd left us. And hopefully it's going to be a fruitful discussion. And if you have any other suggestions, you can talk to us, or you can message us on our social media and on our email. Without taking too much of your time, I leave you to the African Experience podcast, episode number 5.
There is a new African in the world. The black man is capable of managing his own affairs.
Welcome to the African Experience Podcast, your podcast for fascinating discussions, stories, and interviews from the diaspora. Your host, two ordinary Africans.
Hello, fellas. Welcome to another episode of the African Experience podcast. I'm your host, Abdul Hafiz.
And I am Yakubu Ali.
Great. We're back again. Yakub, today, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm very, very good. And I think we need to apologize to our audience. It's been quite a long time due to some technicalities and unforeseen circumstances. But we are back, and I hope we are back for good. How are you too?
I've been trying, with everything going on, with the new restrictions, that the government have put in on us. We're trying to, navigate through the storm, so to speak. But all in all, I think I'm okay. I think I'm trying to make things work, and we hope everything like the rest of the world will be as normal as soon as possible. Will be as normal as soon as possible.
Yes. And how is the coronavirus situation?
Coronavirus, man. It's exactly the problem I'm talking about.
It looks like we are going to be in it forever.
But what I'm trying to say is, we went to lockdown for almost 3 months, right?
Yes.
We came out. It was like coming out from prison, right? And then we went back to a little bit of normalcy, right? And then everything started to come together. 3-4 months, and then bam, another lockdown. Not necessarily a full lockdown like the other European countries, but a partial lockdown. But still, it has affected a lot of people, and that's bad.
Of course. But some people refuse to listen. So maybe we'll have to be coming back again, having these kind of a relapse.
Yeah.
You think things are going to get better, and then all of a sudden you are back into it again.
Although there's a reason why not necessarily refuse to listen. So, honestly, I've been watching like some videos of other countries. They are way worse than what Turkey is. In Turkey, at least, you find people wearing masks every single place you go. It doesn't have to be in the bus or in an enclosed place, a supermarket or anything. Everywhere, the police are on top of this. They warn you to wear masks. But when I look at other European countries, they're not at all. It's as if everything is normal. People wearing masks outside or even talking closer to each other. And this was a surprise to me. You can see how people are reacting to this and how people are beginning to become very, how would I say, very stressed out about these things. And I think that's way more dangerous than the virus.
I think maybe because we've never experienced something like this before. We've heard about viruses and pandemics that happened in the past.
Pandemics?
Yeah, but we never experienced it ourselves, and when we experience, we are refusing to accept it like it exists.
That could be the case. All right, so today, having said all what we said, we're going to talk about something very, very important, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, especially as we are talking about the coronavirus, and that's happening during the coronavirus. And within 2020,
Yeah.
it's kind of too much for us.
2020 is like a wave.
Yes.
Right.
When you think you've seen it all of a sudden something different, something new hits you, and you have to just face the reality.
Yeah. So, J.J. Rawlings.
Yes.
Oh, what a segue from coronavirus to J.J. Rawlings.
Yeah.
Okay, so J.J. Rawlings recently died. It was a very, very unfortunate news, and when we heard of his death, it got me to think about what he's left behind, what kind of a person he is, and what would we say his legacy was? What would he be remembered as, right? And we'd like to send our condolences to his family and the people around him. And as Ghanaians, it touches our heart because
and the people of Africa as well.
And the people of Africa as well. We, especially like people who were born in the 90s, us who were born in the 90s.
Yes.
We kind of were born in the time when he was in power. So we not necessarily lived through it because we were kids probably. We were like 10. We didn't know what was happening. But you knew who he was, right? So that is what triggered this episode. And we would like to dig into it as much as we can with the little knowledge we have.
Yes.
And we hope we can deliver something.
And I think it's important we talk about him. He's a very important person to Ghana. He's a very important person to Africa. And his death was a kind of, it hits us a lot, whether you like it or not.
Absolutely.
It kind of hits you. It's not like he's not going to die. He will die eventually.
Yeah.
But at the time that he died and the events through which he died was kind of strange to us. Normally, people like him, he was 73, I guess.
Yeah.
People like him, like you probably wait, he will fall sick, he will be taken to the hospital, people will be sending their prayers, wish him good luck on all these things. But for him, it was just, I don't know, he fell sick, nobody knew about it, and all of a sudden, he was dead.
Yeah.
So people didn't understand, but later, I think it's been 2 weeks now, we're getting to 2 weeks.
Almost, I guess.
Yeah, people are now facing the reality that he is gone. And as you said, this is the time people are beginning to think about what he left as a legacy.
Yeah.
And we will try and see what we can say about him, what we think about him. What we are going to say actually might be arguably the right thing or the wrong thing, but that's why this platform is there, so that we can share, we can contradict each other respectfully.
Definitely.
And then we can learn from each other, I think.
Definitely. Yeah, so as Ghanaians, and this is right up your alley, Yakub. I mean, this episode is basically you, I think.
I hope I'll be able to do something.
Yeah, so as Ghanaians, we've been taught about our previous leaders, and our history is known to most people, right? In schools, we've been taught about who our presidents are and the terms and how they came to power, from Kwame Nkrumah till the current president. We can say something we know about them. But the case here is, the problem I have with our system, and we've talked about this previously, right? Okay, so we've been taught about we've been taught about who this guy is, J.J. Rawlings. But in your opinion, do you think the way we've been taught about him and other presidents, even Kwame Nkrumah before him, and other Buzia and all these presidents, do you think what we've been taught in school is enough or it's lacking?
No, I think it's not enough.
Okay,
I think it's not enough, not at all. And if you remember, we talked about this a little bit when we did our episode on education.
Yeah.
Like, these people have been putting in this kind of political, how can I say it? Like, everything about them is politics.
Yeah.
So because of that, some people use them to play their political games, and it deprives us, the layman, the student, the rights and the opportunity to learn who are these people. Up till today, there are serious arguments about Rawlings, whether he is a blessing to Ghana or he was just kind of a distraction to the country. You understand? The same thing is about Nkrumah. People have serious problems with Nkrumah. You see, and we didn't get the chance to learn about him. What I learned. Okay, please.
Why do you think that's so? Why do you think we haven't been able to learn anything about them?
You see,
just we've learned a very few things about them?
You see, that's the reason why I understand people when they say they don't like politics. You see, politics has been painted as a dirty game.
Yeah.
So if you want to go into it, you have to be dirty. And you have to dirty your opponent so that you'll be heard. You understand? People will listen to what you're saying.
Yeah, win by all means necessary.
Yes. So, for instance, we've been in Turkey for quite a long time. There are some personalities. It seems like, yes, there are arguments and misunderstandings when it comes to them. But they have this understanding when it comes to this personality, like, we have to respect them. We have to respect them no matter what.
Yes.
You understand? No matter your political party, the moment you hear his name, you have to respect the person. But in Africa, in Ghana specifically, we don't have that. It's groups. So this group will celebrate this guy, and another group will celebrate the other guy. For instance, there is this issue of Founders Day. Normally, it's about Nkrumah.
Mm-hmm.
We celebrate Nkrumah. We celebrate what he did.
Yeah.
But after some time, some people came and they were like, he shouldn't be the founders, like founders with the S, but it should be founders with apostrophe after the S, because he was not the only person who founded Ghana. Even though there are documents that shows that those people who are now being included as founders of the modern day Ghana at first refused to even certify the name Ghana, for Ghana to be called Ghana. They argued that they will not agree with it. But today, their posterity, I guess, or their lineage, people who came from them, they are now arguing for them like, yeah, they were there, they did this and did that, so we have to celebrate them. Okay, I understand. The same thing goes with Rawlings too. I don't know if it's right for them to celebrate the June 4th, but people were against it. But now that he is dead, you can see people saying a lot of good things about him, which I think is hypocritical.
Yeah, you know what they say. You never know the value of a person until they actually leave you, right? So yeah, it's always the case that we begin to realize the importance of someone after he lives or after they live.
Yes.
My contention with this, or my problem with this issue is, especially with my question I asked about the education is, so for example, when we were in school, I don't know for you, I think it's probably the same. We studied, was it social studies? Or,
yes.
Yeah.
We have social studies, and we have also government.
Yeah, exactly. You know that, especially with the primary and the junior high school students, we've been taught the history of the political side of Ghana in a timeline. Like, it's like in a timeline.
It's straight.
Yes, it's a linear timeline and no depth to it whatsoever.
Exactly.
Like from 1947 to 1957 to 1967, this was the person, and then he left. He did this, and this guy came.
Yes.
Nothing else. That is my problem with. So, like you mentioned about people in this country, respecting and whoever the person or whatever party the person is. When it gets to specific people, no one can say anything. I mean, you can say what you think, but you acknowledge what the people have done.
Of course.
The reason is, you know what they've done. Like, for example, if somebody mentioned someone's name in Turkey and the person is really important, in school, you learn what this person have done. You kind of have a whole history of the person from childhood till his death. And this makes you appreciate the person with all their flaws.
Exactly.
And that is what I think we lack. Even with Kwame Nkrumah, we Ghanaian kids below, say, the age of 18 do not know, unless the person goes on their way to go and research and read about them. In school, you're never being taught about who J.J. Rawlings, the person, is, and how this person, and what were the circumstances that made him become who he was.
Exactly.
And that takes away a lot of things, because if you are, for example, from the other party, if it's NPP or NDC, you only know the negative side of the other party or the other personalities. And that is the issue we have right now. which we need to overlook and go back and then do proper research and then renovate, revamp our curriculum when it comes to this matter.
And when you say that, like the linearity and the MPP and the NDC just having negative information about the other party, something just came into my mind. A video, I think, a TED talk.
Mm-hmm.
She was talking about the risk of single story. I don't know if you heard it. It's one of the fascinating videos I've watched. It was an African. She was talking about this story, the linearity in the stories, the conformity as well. And you are right. You see, you said something which is very important: the learning of these personalities, especially something that happened here in Turkey. And there is something very important, which I know you also want to talk about, which is the space to be able to know what the good side of him and the bad side of him, so that you can argue.
Exactly.
You can disagree with what he did or agree with what he did. Even these things are not given to us.
Yeah.
You understand? You don't have the chance to disagree with him or with some of the things he did. It's one way. Those of us who learn the good thing about them, we like them,
Mm-hmm.
and the other people to learn bad things about them and they hate them.
Yeah.
And there's this binary ideas, or how can I say, very polarized. I think that's the right word. We are very polarized.
Yeah.
When it comes to their personality, but unlike Nkrumah, he has written a lot about himself, about his time, and even when he was ousted in 1966. Yes, he went to Guinea and he was writing. He wrote, he criticized, and the people in Ghana, or the government then in Ghana, didn't like it.
Of course.
Understand? But for Rawlings, he didn't say anything. He didn't write anything. I guess there is a book that is coming out about him, which I think we've all been waiting for.
Definitely.
You understand? So then we can get to learn something about him. And unfortunately, now that he is gone, there might be so many questions than answers, because you read the book and it creates so many questions and you don't have anyone to ask. You have to go and be asking his
The people,
family.
Yeah.
Who might not know more about him. Now we know he has 4 children, 3 girls, 1 boy. One of them is in active politics. When she was talking about her father, she was like, he didn't want them to be too attached to him, so he made sure like they were away from him.
Yes.
So if you are going to ask someone like her about her father, especially about some crucial issues or very, very sensitive issues that happened during his time, how sure are we that we are going to get an accurate answer from her? You understand? So it's quite unfortunate that he's gone.
What you just said is very, very unfortunate, because he was also a type of guy who was open to whatever question you ask him.
He doesn't care. He will answer you.
Exactly. And we've been stripped. We've been stripped from these situations, unfortunately. There was this one, I think, BBC Hard Talk. I watched it. It's been long. God, I forgot when I watched it, and I'm probably going to forget some information about that. The lady, she had him sitting right across her, and she was asking these questions. You'd be like, why is she asking these questions? Like, about the hanging and the killings and everything. She was asking him directly. And then he didn't deny. He didn't deny. He didn't try to be defensive. He answered from a person looking from the outside. He answered I think, as honest as he could.
Candidly.
Yes, he took his time. He thought through. You could see the pain in his eyes when he was answering.
Yeah.
And it's rather unfortunate that because of the climate of our system and our educational and our politics, it unfortunately, now that he's gone, we'd feel we've not done enough to actually get everything as a whole, right?
Yes.
So we can the next best thing we can do right now is we can talk more about it. We can analyze what he's done. We don't need him for that, thankfully. It's obvious what he's done. You can go through history and go through economical process that he's let Ghana gone through, and then we can sit and discuss it freely.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So this is what I think we can do. Unfortunately, without him here, but we can.
Yes. And he himself, I think, he considered to the fact that at that time, I think it was 1979 when they did what they did.
1979, yeah.
1979, right? So he considered. I watched one of his interview at him. I think it was in 2020, before his sudden death. He considered to the fact that during that time he was naive and he believed so many people that pushed him into doing something. And most of the things that he did wasn't his decision, solely his decision. It was decision from so many other people. And I remember in that interview that you were talking about, the lady asked him about his conscience. How does he feel? He said, it's not about my conscience. I was representing the conscience of the military.
Yeah, I remember.
And I was
that.
representing the conscience of the people. You understand? But he was honest and he told her, like, what happened during that time was sad because a judge, I guess, a woman, was abducted and she was killed and later burned. Yeah. And she was not the only one. So she was asking him, he said it was bad. It was bad. They could have controlled the situation at that time, but the tension and the pressure and the people were demanding, like, all these people should be executed. And sometimes you are caught into this situation, and before you realize what happened.
It's been too late.
You understand? For instance, in the death of Akwesi Afriye, one of the military. Soldiers then, senior military soldiers then, he said when he brought the list of people that should be arrested after the coup, his name was not in. Akwesi Afriye's name was not in, but one of the people he trusted said, why didn't you add the name of Afrifa? So they added the name of Afrifa. But now when you ask the public, it will be like he killed Afrifa. Understand? But he said, no, at first I didn't even think about Afrifa, but someone advised me or wrote the name of Afrifa in the list of the people that we said should be arrested. And the same thing with Achempo. He said he was being provocative. And at a certain point, he even asked, he arrested him and he fell sick in the prison. He asked them to take him to the hospital. After that, after he get well, they asked him, what should we do with him? He said, just let the man go home. Understand? Yeah. But things happen and so many people died, so many people lost their lives. And I think, personally, even though he didn't come out to say he apologized for some of the things he said, I didn't hear it yet. But you can see that he regretted it and he tried to prove his point before he died. But unfortunately, death doesn't take appointment before it comes.
Yeah, no. The thing is, we're all human. Ultimately, right? We're all human.
Are you trying to justify what you do?
No. I mean, and I'm trying to go actually on a tangent actually before I come back.
Yeah.
You cannot deny the fact that during his time, or he came into a time, for example, the 1979.
Yes.
There were things that led to him becoming who he was. He was in the prison. He was in the prison, as far as I know.
He was arrested.
And then he was arrested. Yeah, and then the people wanted him back. Basically, I mean, he was released, or he was broken out from the prison by his
junior officers.
Right? So you can see what kind of led to this guy becoming who he was, and the undeniable fact of the situation that was happening after Kwame Nkrumah. From the death of Kwame Nkrumah with the champions and all these people, it wasn't a stable country. I mean, we can only read about it, but if you go and talk to people who have lived through, I remember my grandfather, who he talks about those period of hunger. Those period of unfair or monopolized markets. Very difficult to create your own business, and foreign aids and all these. He talks about it as far as he was concerned. Obviously, he's just one person who's telling a story, right? It's anecdotal, and you don't really take anecdotes. But other people talk about him in the same way, or talk about that period in the same way. So when he came, and the fact that, to me, he came in 1979, I think 81, between those period, he instated someone else. Was it Buzia?
Yes, no, Hilaliman.
Hilaliman. So why would he do that in the first place? That's the first question.
Yes.
Why would he do that? So these are questions we need to ask. If he was power hungry, bloodthirsty, as we honestly in school, that is what I knew about J.J. Rawlings. He was power hungry. He was a soldier. He was a military guy. He was a lieutenant. All he knew was power. But when I came and read a little about him, as I could, and watched a documentary about him a while ago, and then I realized that he did all these, it struck me, why would he want to do this? Is it to appease the people and come back later and do what he did? Or he actually had the right to come back and do what he did? You see?
Yes.
So these are things we need to be touching. We need to be touching it with other things he'd done. Other killings. It's unfortunate that it's part of his legacy. Right? But like I said, we all need to target a person with the whole package he comes with. And who knows? The good might outweigh the bad, or otherwise, right?
And I don't think there is no need, we don't need to even put him into this good or bad, because all of us, we have that part of us.
Exactly. He has to be a person, a personality.
Yes.
That's all.
As long as you are a person, you will definitely do something that is wrong, and then you do something that is good. The problem arises when we try to say, is he too good or too bad?
Yep.
You understand? Then we try to look at the nitty-gritty of everything he did, just to make sure that we reinstate him as someone, as God, which is impossible to do for a human being. And personally, I think he is arguably one of the best, or the best Ghanaian
He is second, bro.
statesman after Nkrumah.
Yes, he is second. Nkrumah is there.
Yes.
And then
Like him or
Rawlings
hate
is
him,
there.
yes. Like him or hate him, he is the man.
Absolutely.
As you said something very important, which is the situation or the event he finds himself in. Like some situations calls for
Some
these
actions.
kind of things.
Yeah.
Some actions actually.
Absolutely.
You understand? And there is something in economics they call creative destruction. If you read the book of Ajemolu, Why Nations Fail.
Why nation states fail?
Yes, I think if you read that, he also used the creative distractions. Sometimes if you want to make things good, you cause some little distractions here and there. You understand? And I think what happened in Rawlings' time can also be put in these definitions.
Okay.
Like he was trying to do something good, but in doing that, there are some people who are standing on the way that they need to move for things to work. You understand? And it's unfortunate. People might be listening to it and they might be saying, if it was your father, maybe you might have been hating him by now. Yes, it's true. Maybe I will hate him, but there's also reality. You understand?
Yeah,
things
you have
happen.
to be real.
Things happen. And most of us will regret those things after it has happened. When we are going to do it, we don't think much about it, you understand?
Yeah, definitely. But something we need to not overlook, or it's impossible to overlook, is the period he was in power. From 1979 to 1992, and then after 1992 to 2000, the economical stability, not necessarily a kumbaya, a very great nation. No, we weren't that. But from where he took the country to where he brought the country, and the stable economy, give or take, there were some
frictions on the way.
And
remember after the 1972, the 1979
to 81, I guess.
They handed power to the civilians, which is Hilaliman.
Yeah.
And after 1982, he came back again.
Exactly, he
did
came
another
back.
coup.
That's exactly the thing we need to talk about more.
Yeah. From then, he abolished all political parties, and he continued until 1992 when we had democratically elected.
He brought back multi-party system, democracy
in the
right?
country. And it goes back to the point that you were saying, if he was power hungry, he would have been the president of Ghana up till this time. Absolutely. I find it difficult to understand anyone or anything that someone can bring to show me like they would have prevented him from being the president. Like, what can you do? But the gentleman at a certain point understood like, I've done what I have to do, and now the people are tired of me and have to leave. And he lost the 2000 election.
Yes.
And there was a peaceful transition.
Absolutely.
I think that is one of the reasons why people respect him.
That is it. I think in that interview, they called him a soft dictator, was it? I don't really remember. I think the lady called him
like that.
A soft dictator. The fact that he was willing to step down, the fact that he realized that the people needed the change. In 1991, he decided next year it will be a free and fair election. Okay, he got down. Is it a free and fair election? That's something we don't know. But it was an election. He stepped down and was part of a party, and there was an election, and the people voted him in. Right?
Yes.
And he ruled for 4 years.
And then they voted him again.
They voted him again, and then he ruled again. And then he was voted out. I mean, after 8 years, or after 10 years, obviously, he will be voted out. So we have to look at the legacy he has left behind, his approach to governance, his social approach to governance. You can be a capitalist or a socialist, or that's not the case here. The case is the impact he has brought to the country. For example, I do remember my aunt. She's a staunch Rawlings supporter. She likes him so much. They keep talking about this charisma he had, not necessarily in the looks way, but in the way he approaches situations. The fact that he could, when he comes to a place, he doesn't just talk for talking's sake.
Or stand there and watch.
Exactly. He participates. The videos of when I think he had the whole high schoolers not go to school, and then they basically helped the community, and he was part of it. He was part of the harvest once. You see, these things, being it what it is, whatever you want to take it as, is something undeniable, is something already
genuine.
In history. Yes, it's already in history. You cannot say, you can say maybe he was doing for the whatever, for the people, and then, but think about it. Then we didn't have these media. We had like just one TV station, and
maybe one photographer who will be following him the whole.
Exactly. And how many people had access to those equipments to see or to listen to the person he is, you see, or what he's done. Unlike now, when you do something and the whole world would see what you've done, so it's very difficult to actually do something, genuinely do something, right? People would think you're doing it for the views, for the click, for you see, popularity and stuff like that. In his interview, or it's either his interview or in the documentary, you could feel that he was saying himself that he wasn't a person, or he would have liked to be more of an artist than a leader or a president. It felt like, you know, in Turkish, there's a saying that says, leadership is not taken, it's given. And when they give it to you, you accept it.
You have to live up to it.
Exactly. So he was the latter, basically. It was through a coup and then blah, blah, blah. But people went and broke him out. He would have been executed. Yes. He came back. You talk about his family. In the documentary, they talked about how he was far away from his family. He made sure they were safe. He took them away. He didn't want to, he wasn't the president he was at home. That what you say? He was just a father who was just worried about his kids, his wife, and then his family. And then he was a president, on the other hand. But it's the two things that would come and cross path one day, right?
Exactly.
So these are things we need to appreciate with everyone, with Kufuor, with Atta Mills, with Kwame Nkrumah. They're all human, ultimately. You see?
And I think those who even hate him or disagree with him did that because of that short period of executions, and I know, you know, there were some house cleaning or home cleaning, which they call like kalabule, like some people had too much or amassed too much economic power and richness in their home, so he was going home by home and then taking these kind of things. And if they realize you also have too much money and you don't have a way to prove where you get that money, you will be arrested.
And that's
things,
kind of fair, you know. It's kind of fair because
it's arguable.
No, because if you have too much money, so for example, you call, say, Bill Gates or something, and then he failed to explain where his money or the source of his money or his richness. That creates this, So when he does that, obviously there's some people he might have mistaken and then not necessarily been the right thing to do, but you not having the power you have in the country and then not knowing the source of and that's very disingenuous in my opinion. Right?
So can we also blame the Ghanaians at that time, even though not all of them, but there were some reports and historic facts that students from the university and some organization, they were furious and they were saying more blood should flow or the blood must continue flowing. And I remember one of the terms they were using was a luta continua. You understand? Like, keep on
continue
killing those people. They were stealing from us, and we thank God that you came, and then you are killing these people. People would just go to the execution place
and watch.
I think with the firing
squad, yeah.
You understand? And people would just go and watch.
That's
you understand? They
situation.
Were happy. They asked for more. So can we say, okay, he did what he did, but why don't you also blame the people there?
I mean, in this case, it's difficult to blame a people. So, for example,
but they said the leader is as good as the people who support him.
What I'm trying to say is, it's difficult to blame the people then because of I don't believe they had.
Well, it's easy. It's easy for you to blame a head figure than to
that's one.
Blame the group of people.
Absolutely, you can just point a finger, right? That's one. But on the other hand, how much information was circulating at that time? How much information was circulating?
But we talk about the pain, the kind of economic hardness. People feel it.
I'm coming there. That is one, right? How much information did the people have? Like, genuinely proper information. That's one. You can't say they had. Two, for a people to come to a place and watch execution and want for more of that execution tells you there was something serious. People had enough. People had suffered enough. For the youth never knew what their next meal was. For people to come and then want all these execution, the blood, that should tell you something, man. That should say people were suffering at a moment. So these are things we need to. It's sociological. Like, sociologists can look at this and actually make something out of this. In politics, we know what happened. People don't just come out and then protest, do they? No.
Exactly.
To get a mass of people to come out and protest against something specific or someone would have to have something that had led to that moment. Basically, people being fed up of whatever governance, whatever person, it has to be
I think I have to write something about this. I'm a sociologist. I'm candidate. I'm not a sociologist yet, but I'm studying sociology. I think I have to write the sociological factors or effects of what happened during that time, because
Definitely.
Most of the time we kind of think about the leaders, as we said. We're always looking at them and we say, oh, of course, maybe they could have prevented some of the things. And I agree, maybe they could have prevented. And I believe in the sincerity of Rawlings, honestly. Because a guy who is painted as power hungry, who just want to be in power, he's one of the presidents in the history of Ghana or history of Africa where after he served his term in office, you can't see anything he has accumulated for himself, or you can't see him or his children or his family living this kind of lavish life full of opulence. Like, I haven't seen it. You understand?
Yeah.
So I
see
agree
what you
with
say.
his sincerity. Like, he did what he had to do and then he left.
Okay, I see. For me, right? I just judge, but I try to judge by what I see, and again, the amount of information I have. Sincereness, I think, is something that is to do with the heart. You can only perceive somebody's sincereness, right? Or sincerity. He genuinely seemed as a genuine person who wanted to make change. I mean, you can hear it. I'm not saying he is definitely that person, but I can't say anything contrary, right? With Liberia, what he helped with Liberia and the African Union in Ethiopia, things he has tried, and which by the way, we can actually see all these traits he have with most other African leaders that are revered. You can actually see the patterns of him being a Pan Africanist, although he was a half, even though he was born by his father was Scottish and then his mom was Ghanaian, but he was through and through a Ghanaian.
Passionate about the African issues, African situation. Even after he left office, he was still.
One of those quotes he had, he said, "Christianize me if you may, but do not westernize me." It's so deep. Like the case of us having to be being westernized, having to feel this inferiority. So basically, in this case, he didn't say Christianize me. It's something to do with spiritual, right? Something religion and something you can say it's not necessarily Western Christianity, right? It's a religion, it's a path, it's a belief. But to become Western is something entirely different. It's actually abandoning what makes you who you are as an African or as whatever you are and becoming something else. That's a totally different thing. So that saying he said actually is so deep. We need to appreciate it so much. Honestly.
Exactly. And I think we are getting closer to the end of this episode, and we can talk about him forever. You understand? There are so many things to talk about. But I want us to end with this question. Do you think it's possible to get leaders like him now in Africa again?
It is possible. I have to be optimistic, right? I have to be positive.
Putting all the things that happened, which led him to become the leader of the country.
Like that way, coming through that way, like the way, that's going to be difficult because the time has changed. People are more educated. People know what they want much more, right? But having presidents like him and others we've had previously, the Sankara, the Haile Selassies, the Nkrumahs of the world or of Africa, having people like that,
and
Mandela, right? All these people, having them, it's not impossible. And then we pray we have people like that. Otherwise, the predicaments of Africans or Ghanaians or the developing countries, as we call ourselves or they call us, is not going to change. we're going to get worse.
You said something like, we are developed now. Something that happened at that time could not happen. But we are seeing similar things in Mali, for instance. There was a coup, and it's possible something like that could happen. And it seems like some of the African leaders do not understand anything apart from a coup.
Yeah, that's interesting that you said that. If you look at what happened in Mali, it could happen anywhere, especially in sub-Saharan or in any African country, right? So
because people are still suffering.
People will
and it will
be
take
suffering.
something small to trigger these kind of things.
Yeah, that's true.
There's a very thin line over it.
That's true. Look, what I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm not hoping for something like that to happen, but I'm hoping for a transition from what we are into something better, not through a violent act like a
bloody
coup,
execution.
but because it's very terrible for a country to go through a coup, because for a country to recover, it takes years to recover from a coup.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
The situation we're in right now, coup would be devastating. In any African country, just like Mali is in right now. Like it's terrible. We hope that doesn't happen. We hope there is a transition it could be a mentality transition. It could be a material, physical, political transition, but we hope something positive would happen.
Exactly. And I think you've ended everything on a good note. Saying something on top of this will be unfair to you.
No, man. We can have this conversation another time. It really needs a detail, an oriented, maybe a second, third episode. Talk about other African greats.
Yeah, not just him alone. There are other people, African leaders that we can talk about actually.
Honestly. Definitely, man. I think we've done a lot. We've said some things today. Some things might be perceived to some people as controversial, but we live through controversy. That is how we grow. We live through criticism, right? People listen to you and disagree with you, but there should be a platform for disagreements.
Exactly. The conversation must go on.
Absolutely. Yes. In so many ways.
And now that his book is coming out, I think we will also like to get it. After reading it, we can even talk more or correct what we said, which is wrong. And maybe I just hope the book will come out, because I think his family promised that the book will be coming out soon. So after that, maybe there might be episode 2 of this.
Definitely.
This topic.
Absolutely.
So thank you very much for listening to us, and we hope you will join us again in our next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone. See you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the African Experience Podcast. For show notes, visit us on www.theaexppodcast.com and follow us on social media at the AEXP Podcast.